It's your girl Queen, and you are currently tuned into Heavy is the Crown.
Play that shit, folks.
So you know we gotta get into some things. We gotta get into some black things. It's your girl Queen, and you are currently tuned into Heavy is the Crown. So first of all, I just want to give my gratitude, Miss Jennifer. Thank you so much for sitting down, taking the time with me, just to chat with me on my podcast, Heavy is the Crown. I'm so happy to see your face.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So to all of my listeners, if you are not aware who I am speaking to right now, I have author of Fuck That Cape, Fuck the Cape, The Grown Woman's Guide to Putting Herself First, personal growth, life coach. This woman dedicates her life and her time to helping Black women heal from the toxic and challenging relationships with our mothers. Her Instagram is Black Mother Wound. Right now, she is operating under a temporary or different backup Instagram page. We're going to get into a little bit about that in a second. Miss Jennifer Anise. Am I saying your last name properly?
Arnice, Jennifer Arnice. Yes.
Jennifer Arnice, excuse me. Yeah. Thank you for that. So let's just get right into it. Why are you in Instagram jail right now?
I'm in Instagram jail. So my regular page is Black Mother Wound. My secondary backup page is Black Mother _Wound. So I had a post talking about I think like the reasons you shouldn't try to change your mother when you have a Black mother wound, and the post went viral. And I got like almost 2,000 new followers. Mm-hmm. And I tried to go in, and what I do, I started DMing my new followers. And so I got smacked on the hand as somebody who was spamming, basically. So it's not because of my content, because I've been posting the same content for so long. It's because I was just because I was offering my, I have a free training. So if you go on Black Mother _Wound on Instagram, you click the link in my bio, there's a free training. Mm-hmm. So I was offering people the free healing training, because I know if you're on my page, if you like that post, if you're commenting in my DMs, then you're interested in the work I do. So I'm like, well, this is a great way to get it out. But they have certain rules and I broke them. So I'm in Instagram jail until the end of June. So yeah.
Everyone, please be sure to follow the page that Ms. Jennifer is operating under right now, which would be Black Mother _Wound. Be sure to keep up because she will be back on her main page soon enough. I'm actually so happy that I asked you this question because I spam people all the time. So maybe I need to relax.
Yeah, well, I spammed over 700 people.
Oh, got it. Well, good to know.
Good to know. Right.
Good to know. So let's get into what the Black Mother Wound actually is and why you decided to come up with this movement and push it as hard as you do. Okay. So a lot of us, we think that we're the only people who have this toxic, I don't want to use that word toxic, just because it's so overly used now, but just because that strained, challenging relationship with our mothers. And a lot of the times we think that it's only us. As I've been getting older, I'm like, wow, it's kind of comforting to know that it's not just you. When I stumbled across your Instagram page, it was a blessing for me at the time. I'm in therapy and things like that for my personal Black mother wound, and I didn't even know what to call it. So, stumbling across your page was just like perfect. Like, this is exactly what I've been going through. This wound can affect our entire lives sometimes without us even noticing. Our romantic relationships, our platonic relationships, work. You speak a lot on that. A lot of us have felt shame, abandonment issues, and things like that. What specifically inspired you to help us? Because we need help. And we're so thankful.
I mean, I think it really is my own personal experience. And so I've been on my healing journey for about 25 years, right? And through much of it, it was alone. right? And one of the biggest pains for me was going through it alone. And it always got better and got easier when I shared. Always. And I learned, whenever you think, and I learned this when I was maybe 19, I'm not the only one. And it never left me, because something I had went through then. I was violently raped when I was 17, and I ended up going to group counseling. And I had never heard about anybody else being raped before. And so when I sat in this group setting to hear these other women talk was like, oh, wow. And it blew my mind, and it put my situation into context. Mm-hmm. And it gave it weight, and it gave it grounding, and it gave it validity. And so from that point on, I always knew, if I'm going through something, that means other people are going through it. So when I became very conscious of the impact that my relationship with my mother was having on my life, I knew I was not the only person.
Absolutely.
Because it's just impossible. Because when I wrote my book, that's when I really discovered and really crystallized the archetype of the strong Black woman, right? Mm-hmm. And how prevalent she was. And then I saw my mother is a strong Black woman, and that is what informed her parenting. So if there are other strong Black women and strong Black mothers out there, there's a very good chance that their parenting has been informed the same way. My background is my degree is in political science with a minor in psychology. So I really am about research, right? So it's like a logical breadcrumb following that, oh, there's a connection between the strong Black woman and the mother wound. And I knew the strong Black woman was an epidemic in our community. So it only made sense that the Black mother wound also was something that was happening that we don't talk about. So it was really through my own experience. And the mother wound is a psychological term, right? And it's a term, and what it speaks to is the lack of autonomy that a woman has in her life, and how that lack of autonomy informs her parenting. And that lack of autonomy is brought on by the patriarchy. So white women have scooped up the word mother wound because it's about gender. It's a gender-based wound. The Black mother wound is based on the patriarchy and systematic racial oppression, that intersectionality of gender and race that creates a whole new species of wound that is not talked about in classrooms. It's not talked about in psychology books. And for all the books that I've read by white people about the mother wound, it never speaks to how race informs how a woman parents. Mm-hmm. And so we're left out of that story. So it's really important for me to center the stories and experiences of Black women, because we are staying on the periphery of healing, because it's never really touching the bullseye in the center of what our story is.
Absolutely. I am so happy that you touched on what your background is. That was going to be one of my questions. Here with social media, and this tech generation that we live in right now, a lot of people have been dubbing and naming themselves like dating coaches, life coaches, whatever. And I'm like, well, even if they're, speaking some truth, it's just like, okay, well, where does your background come from? And that was one of the things I was very interested about you, because you are clearly so knowledgeable. It seems like it clearly comes from more than just your experience. So I'm happy that you told us that. And a quick question, have you read a book by Shiraza Ali called The Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Black Woman?
I have not, but it's on my list.
You need to read that. You need to read that. So I think you'll really enjoy it. And when I first read the title of your book, I was like, I wonder if this correlates. So let's get into this book, Fuck That Cape. Mm-hmm. What a title.
Right.
What a title. Why that title?
I picked that title because it comes out of the frustration
Mm-hmm.
the hidden and silent frustration that Black women feel for always feeling like they have to save everybody else,
Right.
you know.
That
And
strong Black woman thing, right?
strong Black woman is absolutely, and it's like, I'm tired of being this way. And
Mm-hmm.
it gets to a point when you're tired of something, it's not like, I don't want to be strong anymore. You know, it's like a sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Right.
So there is this sense of just exhaustion and frustration, um, and even anger around not only how society has put that archetype on us, but how we as a people have accepted it and we put it on ourselves. So it's
Absolutely.
like, it's really over. Like, I'm tired of it, you know. And it's for people who are tired of it. It's not for people who want to tiptoe, because people who are usually strong Black women, they tiptoe around other people's feelings. They tiptoe around difficult conversations. And this is, you know, it's like, this is not about tiptoeing anymore. It's not about being quiet or thinking about others or trying to be so sensitive to other people's needs. It is about being loud and outrageous about putting ourselves first.
So often when I speak about these things and have these kind of conversations, I often bring up slavery
Oh,
in our foundation, in this strong Black woman. We got to hold it down. We can take the most pain, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And when I listen to you speak, you often bring up slavery when speaking about this. Could you touch on that a little bit more for the listeners and how that correlates the way that us Black women carry this strong armor and want to put the cape on everyone?
right. Well, this is really a survival mechanism, right? And when I talk about the Black woman, she is a species that was created only once she got to America. She did not exist before slavery.
Mm-hmm.
There was not a space where collectively Black women had to abandon their children for survival.
Right.
You understand? So the
Absolutely.
species of the Black woman, not the African woman,
Mm-hmm.
but the Black woman in this country was created, and she is the bastard child of chattel slavery,
Mm-hmm.
where she had to really rebuke all of her femininity, all of her cleverness, all of her power, in order to keep her family together. Two
Survive.
things that were so diabolically opposed, because her femininity and her empowerment and her cleverness and her creativity is really the glue for the family.
Mm-hmm.
But it was turned opposite, and she had to become the opposite of that to keep from getting beat, to keep from her family being separated, to keep her husband from being hung, all of these types of things like that, to where it was bred in her no sensitivity, no tenderness. In order for her to live, all of these things had to die away, which is why she is put on such a pedestal, because it is the ultimate sacrifice. It is the death of her.
Mm-hmm.
So other people can live. And that's why it's so difficult for the Black community to talk about the Black mother wound, because she has been through so much.
Absolutely. Right now, in this space, you know, they have the manosphere space that men have created, you know, with Kevin Samuels, MTR, a bunch of different men who are like kind of just speaking out and in different ways, different approaches, kind of about the same thing that we're speaking on right now. In your opinion, or in your professional expertise, what would you say to women as myself, or even like my mother, you know, in that generation, who are trying to work on themselves? Because it's so difficult to like relearn everything, which is what I've personally been doing. I grew up with a strong Black mother, you know, and things like that. And even though I despise so much of the treatment, as I got older, as I grew older, I was like, damn,
You turn in.
I have some of these qualities that I hate, you know. So, and of course, you can do the therapies and things, but what do you advise for women who are trying to correct ourselves?
Therapy is great, right? But this is what I tell a lot of my clients who are in therapy. You have to be able to manage the therapy. You have to go in there with a clear, defined objective of what needs to be healed, right? And if you're raised generally by a strong Black mother and you have a Black mother wound, and there's a spectrum of that, you know, whether she was completely absent or she was physically there, but there wasn't an emotional connection. There are three things that you've gone through: abandonment, rejection, and shame. Those are the three places you have to focus on healing. And where most women mess up in this process is they want to change their mother. They're trying to get their mother to understand, like how you said, how do we help the mother?
Yeah.
You only want to help the mother so you can get something out of it, so she can be there for you. And that's manipulative, right?
Okay.
You can't do that. Everybody has to come of their own free will for the work. But as the daughter, what you have to do is realize if you were not mothered, a huge part of the healing process is the reparenting process, right? So when you're coming out of shame, abandonment, and rejection, those things are replaced with honoring yourself, making a commitment to yourself, and being loyal to yourself, right? So most of us, if we were raised in a strained environment, that is an abusive environment, you know, whether it was intentional or not. So what has happened, like you said, you have picked up some of these traits, and many of us are very abusive to ourselves, right?
Absolutely.
You lay down with a man who don't give a shit about you, you are abusing yourself.
Right.
When you put poor foods in your body, you are abusing yourself. When you spend all of your time at a job that doesn't serve you, when you don't pursue your gifts, when you deny your talents, that is abusive behavior. When we give to others to exhaustion and then lie and say we don't want anything back, that's abusive behavior. When we need help and we don't ask for it, that is abusive behavior. So you have gone from being the victim to the oppressor of yourself. So you have to really get honest about not what your mother did to you, but now what you are doing to you.
Absolutely.
And you have to clean that whole closet out.
Mm-hmm. Working on it, Miss Jennifer.
Yeah, it's a process. Me too, girl. We got a house full of closets, so it's always, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. It's a quote that I've heard you say that I really love, and I would like if you could kind of elaborate on that for the listeners here. All suffering is fighting what is.
Oh yeah, suffering is your denial of what is. Suffering is your struggling against what is, and it is because we have an underdeveloped ego. Right? If you have not been emotionally nurtured and loved, your development has been stunted, right? Okay. So a child, when they don't get their way, a child believes they should always have their way. And when they don't get their way, they throw a tantrum until they get their way, right? Because that's what they learned as babies. I'm hungry, I throw a tantrum, you feed me. Okay, I learned that lesson. I'm going to use that in every other area of my life, right? So we continue to go through that, and when we don't have proper ego development, we become adults, and when things don't go our way, we fight against that. We cannot accept the way things are, and that's where our suffering is, right? And we want things to be different. We think things should be different, right? And that is a childhood perspective. And then we think someone owes us something, right? And then when we think somebody owes us something, we think everybody owes us something. And then we think that can be the reason for our own poor behavior to others, right? So all suffering is your struggle against what is. And some people think, well, just fuck it then. I don't care no more. They think that's how you give up the struggle. But really internally, you're still struggling.
Absolutely.
Right? The only way to come out of struggling is to heal, right? Because just pretending the cut is not there doesn't make it not there.
Right.
Because that's also a childhood activity of denial, pretending, right?
Absolutely.
But the only way you can come out of struggle is to heal, because it changes your perspective. Struggling is when you're on the first floor of a skyscraper. You look out the window and the car is right there. It's the same size, it's just a life-size car. The people are 5 feet tall, 6 feet tall. The tree is right there. It's taller than you. The bench is there. You can sit on it. It's the size that it is. Healing means you go in the elevator, you go up to the 5th floor, you look out a window on the 5th floor in the same direction. And that's the same car, but now it's smaller.
Right.
It's the same tree, but it's smaller. It's the same people, but they're smaller. And now you have a view of the horizon. Now you see the sunset. Now you see the sunrise, right? Then you go in the elevator, you go to the 20th floor, and that car is tiny. You don't even see it anymore. Is the car still there?
Absolutely.
The car is still there. But now what you see is the skyline. You see miles away, and then you look across and you see other people on the 20th floor. You see other people who are healed. You're like, hey, sis, what's up? That's what you focus on. You don't focus on moving the car out of the way, moving the trees, moving the bench. That's what suffering is. I don't want this here. I don't want that. That car shouldn't be there. That tree shouldn't be there. This should be different. And so you're always going to feel defeated because you have no control over those things, but you have control over your own elevation.
Absolutely. When you speak about healing, you do also often speak about meditation, heart healing of the heart chakras, things like that. How effective and how imperative has that been to your personal healing and as well as your clients?
Right. This is the thing about all of those things. Healing the Black mother wound is about really getting a relationship with yourself, right? So how do you build a relationship with anyone, right? You talk to them. You tell them about who you are, then you listen. You let them tell you about who they are, right? You accept them. How do you build a friendship with them? You become vulnerable with them. You share things with them. You spend time together. You learn who they are, right? So it's the same thing with yourself. So meditation is the opportunity for you to listen to who you are, right? And to become silent enough to hear your higher self. I love journaling. Journaling is a way for you to talk to yourself, right? That's what that is. Healing the heart chakra is about even that deeper energetic relationship, right? That's where it comes when we're really dealing. That's why when we do in our classes, when we do the inner healing work, we put our hands over our heart chakra, right? Because that's where the loss is. That's where we're hemorrhaging emotional energy. That's where our femininity is leaking out, and then we're just left with the imbalance of masculine energy. So when we restore those things, your body physically, your body mentally, your body emotionally, your body energetically is a naturally healing organism, right? So
Absolutely.
when you clean a wound, you put some antibiotic treatment on it, or you stitch it up, or you do whatever needs to be done, it will then do its job to heal, right?
Absolutely.
Your emotions and your energetic body are the same way. So building that relationship through different modalities, and there's so many: dancing, being in nature, singing, playing, anything that's inspiring to you creates a healing environment to where the body can take over and it can go back to its natural state. So it's not our job to do all the work. That's what we're used to. It is about creating an environment to where we can come back naturally to what we are, because that's what we do.
That makes perfect sense. Like, just making it just click. It makes sense. I love it. So you did tell us, you did acknowledge that you suffered or are working on your Black mother wound as well. What has been the hardest or the most difficult part in your personal journey dealing with your personal Black mother wound?
That is a really good question. I think for me, the most difficult part is not having my mother in my life. Mm-hmm. You know, because the more you heal, the more I don't have a lot of layers over my emotions. So I don't have a callousness. I don't have I love tenderness now. I love closeness now. I love gentleness. I love vulnerability now. So she was the first person I ever experienced any of those things with as a baby. She's the first love of my life, you know. So to not have her in my life probably is the most difficult part. It's not something that I think about a lot. But if there was something I had to pick, that would be it, because everything else I love, but I know I can't change her. And what's most important is the relationship I have with myself. And that's where we talk about that rejection. The counter to the rejection is commitment and loyalty. And so the commitment and loyalty to myself is what's most important.
Mm-hmm. A lot of the times in those, thank you for sharing that with us. Absolutely. First of all, a lot of the times when we are going through these situations with our mothers, you'll hear feedback such as, well, you only get one mother, you know, you got to fix this, you know, life is too short, things of this nature, right? However, what you just now said is that the most important thing is how you can live with yourself, you know, and your relationship with yourself. How do you feel about those type of responses, and what should women who are on their journey, how should they respond or feel about that? Because those type of responses can really give you like a guilt trip, you know, it's like tug of war, because it's like, you know, you're supposed to be doing this for yourself. It makes you feel better. However, when you hear those kind of things, especially when it comes from family, close friends, it's like you could kind of feel a guilt type of thing. So what would you say to someone who's dealing with that?
That is an excellent question. I would say that that's not your focus, right? I would say one of the biggest parts of healing and that commitment to yourself and that loyalty to yourself is setting boundaries, right? And like I said in the beginning, I always tell people only get into those conversations when they are trying to explain themselves and try to get somebody else to understand. Because how else does somebody know what's going on with you? Right? So the first thing is, you stop trying to get validation and understanding from others, and mad then when you don't get it. Because I've only had that conversation once with one person. Mm-hmm. And that was the last time we really have talked like that. Mm-hmm. And I don't have that conversation with anybody else, because why would I bring my most sensitive self to people who I know, or I don't know if they're nurturing and supportive? Stop giving yourself away, right? Absolutely. Even if they're blood related. Stop saying, well, we had to have this conversation. I wanted to explain this. I wanted them to at least see where I'm coming from. Why? That only re-traumatizes you. And that's a part of your Black mother wound, is you have no autonomy over yourself, because you want somebody else to give you permission to say it's okay to be upset with your mother. That's what a lot of us are looking for. Because I'm gonna say that I don't call us females, but for this I have to say the word female. Mm-hmm. Black females are taught to be girls. They're never taught how to be women. So a girl never has autonomy. She's never the boss of herself. She's never seen as someone, I shouldn't say never, but usually in the Black community as someone who has a clear understanding. And she falls usually in the pecking order of a family. She's usually down below, right? Just because just because of age and gender,
right?
She doesn't usually get the same respect, right? So she's never taught how to be autonomous and own. Well, baby, if that's the way you feel, then that's the way you feel.
Right.
There's nobody that really grew up telling us that. And if you say it happened, then it happened. And I got your back. You know what you're talking about. You a smart girl. You understand? Right. So because we never got that, there's a part of us that is underdeveloped in that way. So we look to our family and community to give us the permission to be who we are, because we're still little girls in adult bodies.
Absolutely.
So that's really, it's not about, oh, I'm gonna give you a response to say, oh, that's how you feel? Oh, okay, well, I don't feel that way. Right. Why am I gonna go? A whole nother topic. Stop going back and forth with people.
Right.
You know, if I eat something and it tastes good, I'm not gonna get mad at the food because it doesn't taste the way I want. I'm gonna keep eating it thinking it's gonna change the way it tastes. I'm gonna spit it out and I'm gonna throw it away and go find something else.
Right.
So you need to find other people to be around. It's really, and I know it can be difficult. I'm not saying this journey is easy when you start, right?
Absolutely.
But if you are in a situation where you feel like your people are constantly challenging you in that area, right? And you say, we only have one mother. I only have one me.
Exactly.
Right. This is none of your business. This is between her and I. This is about my relationship with her. And you could have lived in the same house with her and had a different relationship. It does not negate the relationship I had.
Right.
You know.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to understand. You don't have to agree. And I don't have to go by your rules. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Like, you eventually have to grow up. I remember I went to see, you know, Marianne Williamson?
No, I'm not familiar.
Marianne Williamson is like a white spiritual teacher in the mainstream white spiritual world. She's the person who introduced, what is that book? The Course in Miracles.
Okay, I have to look into it.
Right. So I went to see her speak when I remember I was 34 years old, because she had talked about having a strained relationship with her mother. I ain't know nothing about this stuff back then. And after it was over, here this woman is, New York Times best-selling author, famous, right? My one question was, how do I get my mother to understand me better? Like, really, how do I get her to see where I'm coming from? Right. You know? She said, how old are you? That's why I know this, because that was her question. I was like, I'm 34. She said, you need to grow up. What you need to do is grow up and just be a woman. I didn't know what the hell that meant.
Right. Like, baby, I am a woman.
Right, but I'm not, because I'm sitting here trying to figure out
exactly
how do I get my mom to da-da-da-da.
Right.
So this is about growing up. Healing the mother wound is about growing the fuck up. And a lot of Black women don't want to grow up because they're also reaping the benefits of being childish. Whether their mother is taking care of their kids, whether their mother is supporting them financially, whether they have not gained their own confidence, so they're relying on their own mother's confidence and astuteness in the world, and they don't want to grow up. But they still want the benefit, they still want their mother to change without them changing. And growing up means you got to carry the weight on your own, sis, in all areas.
Absolutely. A lot of us girls who are not raised to be women, I'll even go as far to say wives, even productive mothers.
Mhm.
A lot of us, we grow up and we take on those roles. Some of us, we get married. Some of us, we have children. However, we still have these Black mother wounds, which it's kind of like a domino effect. You know, it goes and trickles down, that generational curse kind of thing, right? You're a mother as well. How did that affect you when you enter motherhood, the way your strained relationship with your mom?
That was really the catalyst for my healing. When I first had my son, I thought, living back up, even as strained as my relationship was with my mother, I thought she was fucking God, right? I thought, oh my God, I thought she wrote the damn book of Genesis. Like, I just thought she gave everything for us. She worked so hard. She sacrificed. She gave so much. She did so much by herself. You know, I just want to make her proud. I owe her everything. She's, you know, she was the example I saw as a mother. So when I had my son, I parented exactly the way she did, right? But I knew there were things also that I did not want to be the same, right? I knew she treated me very differently than she treated my brothers, right? I was like the stepchild, like Cinderella, right? And I knew that I didn't want to coddle my son the way my younger brother was coddled. And I wanted to have a more open relationship. I wanted to be able to talk more, right? So I'm conflicted because I think she's awesome, but there are these things I wanted to do differently. And it wasn't until my son became, you know, verbal and him being in like first, second grade, I remember I was picking him up from school and I said something and I thought it was funny. What I said, I thought it was a joke, right? And this little child from the back seat said, Mom, you don't have to be sarcasm all the time. It's like,
right. Like, just read me then, son.
I was embarrassed.
Right.
Because what he's saying, that wasn't funny. Like, you don't have to be so sharp all the time. Like, and I realized I'm being sharp with a 5-year-old. I feel unsafe with a 5. Like my calibration is so off that I could possibly see a 5-year-old as my enemy.
Right.
Where I gotta keep him here. Not only any 5-year-old, my 5-year-old, the person I birthed, who I see every day, who looks up to me. So how often am I doing this bullshit? And then to have him one day say in front of other people, sometimes you act like you don't like me.
Ooh.
I remember that feeling. I remember feeling like that with my mother. I remember feeling like that with people in her family. Like, they just don't like me. I felt bullied. You know, like by your own family, you feel bullied.
Absolutely.
And I got serious about that shit. Period. I got really serious about, he was the first person I became vulnerable with because I wasn't even being vulnerable with him. I started apologizing when I was wrong. When I go off, I started coming back and saying, that was not the way to handle that. I apologize. There was another way I could have handled that. Do you accept my apology? And not in a way that's like, oh, I just mess up and apologize every time, but let's really talk through it. Right? And letting him tell me how he felt, you know, even as, you know, even at 9 and 10 years old, you know, I began to affirm him in a way that I never was affirmed, right? That I didn't even know how to affirm myself. And so it's just been the progress of that and just continuing to build on that, you know, because the two things I want him to do is be alive, you know, and that's the part about the Black mother wound that we all carry. We have to carry the wound that, damn, having a Black son, the risk of him not being alive, right? So we carry that. The other is I want him to grow up and be very conscious and aware that I know what love feels like. I know what it feels like to be loved. Not the type of love that she gave everything, because that is not love. Because then we think about that. That's how a Black woman loves. She sacrificed everything. She did all this for me and all. That's not love, right?
Right.
That is just survival. And we have made them the same. But for him to grow up and say, I know what it feels like to be loved. I know what it feels like to be seen and heard. I recognize that feeling. I recognize somebody valuing me just for being alive. So when he goes out in the world, he can recognize other loving people. Mm-hmm. That is all I want for him, is that he can go out in the world and recognize loving people, because I didn't know how to recognize loving people. I recognized unloving people, and it wreaked havoc in my whole life because I was drawn to unloving people. And I want him to be drawn to loving people. If he's drawn to loving people in his life, I don't give a damn if he work at Walmart. Right. I really don't. As long as he is drawn to loving, because loving people lift you up. Mm-hmm. And the body will do what it does naturally when it's loved. It will grow and it will flourish and it will blossom naturally when it is loved. So that is what I want for him. And then I realized that is what I want for myself. So we are just on this journey together, with me now attracting loving people into my life, and me attracting the love out of me back into me as well, and having it continue to recirculate.
That's beautiful. I'm so happy for you. And I think that's so beautiful that your son was able to be that thing that's like, okay, I need to tighten up, you know? So, and you two are going on a journey, like kind of together. So yeah. I think that's awesome. Can we get into that mother-daughter, mother-son relationship, especially when those siblings are in the home? I always find it interesting that exactly what you explained, often than not, the mother and the daughter will have some type of strained relationship, but then the mother and the son will have like just the opposite relationship. And we are, even when we're living in the same home, you know, and what is that about in your professional opinion?
Jesus Christ. I'm going to say in my experiential opinion, you know, and some of what I've studied, right, and what I've seen in others. I believe when my mother had a daughter, that it triggered all of her gender-based trauma. Okay. You know, you have to realize in our time, our mothers were born in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Mm-hmm. Right? There was no Me Too. Right. There was do what the hell I said, shut your ass up. Mm-hmm. Right? My mother was born in Jim Crow South of South Carolina in 1946. She picked cotton from the time she was 5 to the time she was 16. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, so you understand the type of environment she grew up in. Those environments were all over the country, right? And I believe that when you have a lot of trauma, right? And I do think my mother also suffers with there's issues with her mental health, right? And I think that's just from birth. That seeing yourself as a baby, powerless, unable to fend for yourself, unable to protect yourself, it triggers all of her powerlessness, right? And her mission becomes for you not to go through what she went through. Right. Because what she remembers is the powerlessness. That is the overwhelming perspective of her life, how she's been, how powerless she has been. Mm-hmm. And what she would have done differently. Right. You know, and so she beats that into the daughter as a safety mechanism. And I believe this is also a part of chattel slavery, right? Right. Because if you've been raped and everybody around you's been raped, there's a good chance your daughter's going to be raped, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you prepare her for that? Your child has been snatched away from you. Everybody around you, the child has been snatched away from them. There's a good chance your daughter will feel that same agonizing pain. How do you prepare her for that? That is the love, because you're trying to prepare her mm-hmm. for the deepest, darkest days. You know, and I think that's also why so many Black women who are in this position lean on church so hard, right? Because there's no way to process some of the trauma they've been in. There right. just isn't. And for me, through healing, I can see a lot more compassion now, right? Because we got a podcast, we can sit here and have a conversation.
Absolutely.
We can go on Instagram and read memes all day about healing. Mm-hmm. Okay, we can go on Clubhouse and Twitter and YouTube and have so many resources. Mm-hmm. They had nothing.
Absolutely.
They had nothing and they had no one, right? Mm-hmm. So when they see the daughter, they're triggered by that, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I think that, and then you see a generation that is after you with more opportunity, and their stunted growth, their underdeveloped ego, that is where jealousy comes in. That is where sibling rivalry comes in. There comes in, I didn't get to have that. How do you get to have that? Mm-hmm. I've given up more than you, but here you are going to reap the benefits.
Right.
But it's for them, they're still a little girl on the inside too. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just because their body biologically can push out a child doesn't mean they're emotionally or intellectually ready. Mm-hmm. You know, to raise someone else.
Absolutely.
You know? So you have that. And then when you have the son represents the romance they've never had. The love of a man, the loving, it's safe to love this man. Mm-hmm. It's never been safe to love a man for many Black women. You know, it's safe to love him. He looks up to me. He needs me. You know, I'm going to make him different than the other men, right? Mm-hmm. It's still living through their trauma, just in other ways, right? Because what they do is they teach their daughters hyper masculine ways, and they teach their sons feminine ways.
Yes, ma'am. I love the way you break that down. And just to kind of add on a bit, I think it's so ironic that Black mothers do this everywhere, but when they're raising their Black sons, they're raising docile, you know, feminine tendency like men.
Well, what they're doing is they're not raising them to be that way. They are behaving that way with the boys. So that's the example of a person that the boys receive. Mm-hmm. It's just, you know, it's not like she's a woman or a man. It's that's a lot of times the example that he sees. So he reflects that back. The mother, the daughter, she sees her mother in a more masculine way.
Absolutely.
So she just picks up on that, because the mother has two sides and she just shows a different side mm-hmm. to the boy. Or even if he doesn't grow up with, he may not be effeminate or have these docile ways, he still has extremely wild ways, mm-hmm. meaning I do what I want to do. I say what I want to say. I go where I want to go. There's a lack of accountability, but that accountability is still because of her own heartbreak. Absolutely. You know, I don't want him to leave me. So if I give him all the room in the world, he won't leave me. Mm-hmm. This is subconscious. This isn't what she is doing logically.
Right.
Because you can, the need for the love is still there. You can't, no matter what. And this is really the only safe outlet she has. So it is a romanticized, sometimes emotionally incestuous relationship. Mm-hmm. You know, I hate to say it like that, right. But that is really the root of it a lot of times, because that's how, and then they treat, yes, it just goes far.
It does. And with that being said, and I totally agree, thank you for breaking it down like that so it can forever be broken. That was great, the way that you explained that.
Thank you.
I am aware that there are Black men who do have Black mother wounds as well.
Absolutely.
So I don't want to make it seem like I'm discrediting their feelings and their experience either.
Yeah, but those men, they have been wounded by that behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Even when they grow up and they're like, I love my mama, I'll do anything for my mama, that is still a wounding they have, because that's an enmeshed relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And they still feel extremely responsible for her.
Mm-hmm.
So then they can't live their own life.
Right.
Right? That is still a wound that they have. It's just the other side of the coin.
Right.
Well, I can't leave this area because my mama live here, and I got to do this and I got to do that, and I have to show I'm the man, because she has created this expectation that is her man. That is a wound, because he's also denying her. No, she is also denying him.
Right.
She is not letting him go and say, go off into the world, live your life. Mm-hmm. She's unappreciative oftentimes. Right? She's needy. Mm-hmm. All of those things are wounds, but a man looks at it like, that's my job. But he's so busy tending to his mother, he can't tend to his other responsibilities. He can't tend to his children. Right. He can't tend to his wife. He can't tend to his job. He can't tend to his purpose, his calling in his life. So they also have been wounded in that way. And then you have situations where I have an older brother, and my mother, she didn't raise him. So he has a straight up wound and a straight abandonment wound.
Right.
You know, so yeah, there's so many layers to it.
So we have Fuck That Cape for the women, right? Have you ever thought about doing a book about the other coin for men as well? Yes,
but you know, we really got to get to the end of this part.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna tell you why, because when Black women heal, the whole world heals.
I agree.
And the more Black women who are healed, they can take this healing into their relationships, right? And I don't mean that from a space of they become the man's therapist, but just the energy that they're putting out there is different, right? And eventually I hope to get around to writing from that space. But I really want a man to come up and tell that story.
Yes.
You know, I really want him to tell the story, because there's, you know, we have more leeway with being emotional as women, right? And finding our own paths. And we just on that whole self-love therapy for Black girls kick. Like, we are on that right now. And it's really, I've talked to men in my DMs. They feel so much shame, and there's such a fear of being rejected. Like, it's almost like a death grip for speaking out and having a voice. Yeah, it's a lot of them are suffocating under it with a smile, you know. And I really, really want a Black man to come out and really talk about it, you know, in a healthy way, right. Because there are parts of that I don't understand, you know. So, but yeah.
That makes sense. Well, I'm excited to keep up with your movement. Everyone watching right now, you definitely need to get on Instagram and follow Miss Jennifer at blackwound_mother.
No, Black Mother _wound.
Sorry, tongue tied.
Like a stomach. It's okay. Wound, WOUND. Or you can just follow the hashtag Black Mother Wound.
Got it. And how can people sign up for a counselation? Because you do give one-on-one counselations with people, and you also do group counselations as well, correct?
Right. Yeah, I have a monthly healing class. So the next class is the last Thursday of every month. So June 24th is the next class. If you go to Instagram, at blackmother_wound. If you're watching this and it's June, that's where you need to go, but it'll still be there no matter what, or just at blackmotherwound. And if you go to the link in the bio, you can sign up for the June class or the July class. I have one-on-one coaching that I do in healing sessions, and you can set up a discovery call and find out, if that's something you want to do. You can email me at info@blackmotherwound.com, WOUND.com, with any questions. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And there's always new stuff popping off. So just, if you sign up for anything I have, you'll get on my mailing list, so then you'll know what's up and coming.
Absolutely. I done already signed up for my cancellation. I will be there June 14th. I need a one-on-one, y'all. It gets really heavy. And I wanted to do the cancellation after the interview.
Yeah.
So it seems so personal. So I'm really excited. Thank you so much. You do not understand how full I am right now from this interview. Is there anything else that you would like to tell the listeners that they need to watch out for you or anything?
I would say just, I've got a group membership coming up. There's always new things that are coming. So right now, follow me on Instagram. Soon, blackmotherwound.com will be up. So just keep searching and, just stay on the lookout for that, and just do your work. Be patient with yourself, be kind with yourself, be compassionate with yourself, be gentle with yourself. You're not too old to start this. Nothing is lost. It's not like, well, it's too late because this happened and that happened. No, nothing is lost. That's what I always want people to know. Like, you can still, your best days are ahead of you, right? And why not make them the best days? And that's what healing does.
Well, thank you so much. Again, I'm so blessed right now. I love this. I hope all of my listeners enjoyed it. I hope you had a good time chatting with me today on Heavy is the Crown. And I'm going to see you on June 14th.